So welcome everybody, John Denton here, and this webinar is for all of my mentoring group participants, coaching and consulting clients and invited guests. And it's based upon the content that we covered in a recent business owner mentoring group workshop. So today I'm going to be talking about knowing your numbers and why it is critical to improving your business. But first of all, as usual, just a few housekeeping points. So for those of you who aren't familiar with webinars, you will have a control panel somewhere on your screen, which may have been minimized down to just a little strip with an orange button with a white arrow in it at the top. If you press that button, it will expand and minimize the control panel. And in the control panel, you can ask questions or you can raise your hand if you wish to speak. As I say, we're starting off with microphones muted just to cut out any background noise. And if you wish to say something, please raise your hand, type something in the question box, and we'll get to you that way. So let's get going. Today, we're going to be covering why know your numbers. Look at key result areas, financial KPIs, non-financial KPIs being key performance indicators, dashboards, one-page plans, and a few other things. So I'm going to put things into context, and by now most of you would have seen this diagram quite a few times, but it is fundamental to every business and simplifies a business down to just two elements: the maths and the psychology. The psychology being the marketing and the sales side of it, and the maths being getting your numbers right. And this session is all about knowing your numbers and knowing how to get your numbers right. It's, pretty basic, but that's what good business boils down to. And you need to get those two things right. If you get those two things right, you'll have a good business. If you get the maths wrong and the psychology wrong, then you won't have a business for very long. So, and people say to me, but nobody starts off or gets into that state. Well, they do actually. People get stuck on concepts of a business without ever selling anything and without ever pricing anything up to make a profit. And generally they don't go anywhere. If you get the maths right, in other words, you get your pricing and your financials and everything organized and get your numbers right, but you get the psychology wrong and don't market and sell your business, then you can go out of business pretty slowly. If you get the maths wrong but the psychology right, then you're doing lots of selling, but you're not making enough profit to fund the expenses of the business, the overheads of the business, and you can go out of business, and you'll go out of business pretty quickly because you're being very successful at selling, but you're not making enough profit to sustain the business. So your cash flow doesn't work, basically, in that situation. So the idea, obviously, is to get the maths right and the psychology right. I was contacted by a business the other day and had a consult with them over the telephone about their business. And basically it was, they'd got the psychology right. They were growing their business sales-wise. They were growing their turnover. But the maths was completely wrong. The margin on the products that they were selling was really, really low. And even though they were selling more and more, they just weren't making enough profit to give themselves a good income or a good wage. They were paying their expenses just. And when they looked at and we discussed scenarios of increasing sales and marketing, it still didn't work, because then they were doing more work, shifting more product, having to employ more staff, increasing their overheads, and there was still no more profit in the business. So the numbers just didn't stack up. They just didn't work. So we talked about a few ways that they could increase their margins and get more money coming into their business, because they just hadn't got the maths right. So it was a good business in every other respect, but just their pricing and their product mix was not good. So there's lots of things to think about, but that simplifies a business down. So know your financial numbers, and this is a model that I use with most business owners. And please understand that the principle here, because this actual model is not going to fit every business. But variations of this model or applying the same principle to any business will work. It's just a question of working out how it fits to your business, but hopefully you will see what I'm getting at here. So the first thing is the psychology and the marketing. You've got to get leads and inquiries coming into the business, or walk-ins if you're in retail with the shop front and so on. You need the inquiries, the leads, the phone ringing, and so on. Now, once you've got that happening, you want that to happen. You want people to be qualified leads or qualified prospects so that they're predisposed to buy. So it makes the sales process easier. So depending on how well you do your marketing will determine how qualified and how predisposed to buy those prospects are. And then once you've got the prospect coming into your shop or ringing you up or coming to you through the email or your website or whatever, it's then a question of what's your system for converting that lead into a client, into a sale. And if you look at the number of leads coming in and how many of them convert to sales, then that's your conversion rate. And so you can sometimes get enough leads coming in, but your conversion's not good enough. If you know your numbers, you know where to make the improvement. So once you've got the leads coming in, you've got your conversion process, whether it be a sale process or an automated process going on, that then turns qualified prospects into customers and clients. The customers and clients will spend money with you. Hopefully, that's what it's all about. So what's the average dollar spend per customer? Now, again, this will depend a lot, this model, on how you set it up, whether people are repeat customers. In other words, they're going to come to you a number of times ongoing, or whether it's a one-off type sale, whether you can get some recurring income out of that. So, I mean, it is going to change depending upon your business, but let's look at a simple model to understand the principle. So let's say it's a business, something like a hairdressing business or a service business, where you've now converted the client, you've got the first sale, and now you're looking at how many times that person's going to come back and buy from you again. And as I say, if you're selling IT products or big ticket items, you may only be selling them once, but then you may have an opportunity to provide some service or some ongoing revenue stream from them. Tailor it to your business, but the number of transactions, so let's say it's a hairdressing business, someone has now come to you for the first time, they've spent some money, they're going to come back and they're going to get their hair done numerous times throughout the year. So let's say that over a period of time you build up 250 clients that spend an average of $150 with you, and they come back 4 times a year. Then you're going to have income of but you're going to have income of $150,000 annually. If your gross profit on that is take off the direct cost of sale, not your overheads and your expenses and fixed costs, but your direct cost of providing that product or service, that gives you your gross profit. If it's 75%, then it means you've got an annual gross profit dollar income of $112,500, which cover the overheads in your business and money that you put back into the business or pay yourself with. So if you know those numbers, then you can work out which levers to pull to get the best return for your business. So if we just go back to that list there, so in this case, you could, if you know your numbers, you can look at the numbers and you can make good strategic decisions about the business. Do I need more leads and inquiries coming in? Is it my conversion rate that needs to be improved, or the quality of the prospects that are coming in that needs to be improved? Can I get them to spend more money per sale? So can I do a companion sale or an upsell, things like that? Can I get them coming back more often? So do I capture their details, put them on a marketing list, and do I make them offers and things during the year to get them to come back more times? It could be a car servicing business. I work with a car servicing business as a coach, and with them, again, it's all about different times of the year, making different offers, seasonal type offers to get people to come in and get something done on their car. So can I get them coming back more often? Can I increase the gross profit? So that might be a case of negotiating with a supplier to get costs down, or there's all sorts of things you can do to increase your gross profit maybe. But if you know the numbers and you keep track of your numbers and you look for trends and changes, then you can make some strategic decisions. You can work out, as I said before, which levers in the business you need to pull to give you the greatest return. But it's not just financial and sales numbers that you need to be looking at. Let's have a look at key performance indicators generally. So it's about knowing all the relevant, most important numbers in your business. I'll just cover this and then I'll open it up for some discussion or comments. So the important thing about key performance indicators is, as you'll see in a few minutes, we can come up with literally 100 different measures that we can put into a business. But the really important thing to work out is what are the most important ones, and you probably wouldn't want any more than about 20 in the overall business. And to focus on at any one time, I always recommend around about 5. But the important thing is to have them in different areas of the business. Now, the textbooks and experts who talk about KPIs and how to look at KPIs talk about generally these four different areas of the business. And they will tell you that it's very important to get KPIs set in each of the 4 areas. And you would set KPIs for your key employees or contractors, people that are doing work with you. You would set KPIs with them as well to measure their performance. I've got a client at the moment who's outsourced their marketing now to a marketing company, but they've put measures in place with the marketing company on how they're going to measure the success of the marketing campaigns and using that marketing company against the investment that they're making in it. You've got to measure your return on your investment. So let's have a look at these 4 areas. Financial measures. These are the ones that people come up with most often, and they're the most obvious ones, I guess, to put in place. So it can be on profitability, it can be on gross profit, net profit, as I said before, return on investment. So when you're spending money on marketing or anything else in the business, what's the return going to be? When you're investing in employing staff or contractors, how are you going to measure your return on investment for those areas? Revenue growth, so are my numbers going up? And what's the revenue mix? It's very important to know, if you've got lots of different revenue streams or different products in your business, which ones are the profitable ones and which ones are selling best and so on. I'll show you an example in a moment from a cafe bakery, which is a real live example. Asset use in the business, that's generally used in bigger businesses. If you've got investment strategies and things going, there's all sorts of things there. So there's a lot of areas where you can put financial measures in place. What about internal business processes? This is another important area to measure. So operational efficiency, how quickly things get done, how much waste there is. If you're running a food business, how much food are you throwing away at the end of the day? All these sort of things. Quality, how do you measure the quality in the business and improving the quality? Like how many returns do you get if you're selling something and offering a guarantee? How many returns do you get? How many customer complaints do you get? You can look at resources and consumption in the business and all manner of things. So think internal business processes and how can we measure the efficiency and success of those things. Customer service, this is a great one. How do you know how satisfied your customers are? There's surveys, there's complaints and returns, as I said before, how quickly you deal with some of those things. But what do your customers think about your business? How satisfied are your customers? Put some measures in place. And an example here is if you're, say, take my auto servicing business, the business owner could put some KPIs in place for the service department in that business, for the mechanics, in terms of efficiency and making them efficient and productive in terms of turning around vehicles and things quickly at a lower cost and so on. But if you do that to the detriment of the customer satisfaction and maybe rework and things like that, then it's not a good thing to use to motivate the service department with. The service department's got to have a customer satisfaction KPI as well, so that there's a balance between efficiency and productivity and satisfying the customer and giving the customer what they want. That's why it's important to get KPIs across all 4 areas of the business, is so that you don't do really, really well in one to the detriment of the others. And then learning and growth. So what sort of measures can you put in place there about developing the organisation, making changes, improvements, growing the people in the organisation, so performance appraisals, people development, responding to changing circumstances, all sorts of things in that area, people's capabilities, skills, qualifications, retention of staff, productivity of staff, all manner of things. Just going back to the customer service one, some of the really good customer service measures there are, how many new customers you're getting per month, how many you're losing per month, so customer retention and all those sort of things. There's a lot of things you can choose from. And I'll show you a sheet now which is on Trello for the mentoring group members on the webinar. This document is on Trello. You can download it. And again, this is not an exhaustive list, but it just gives you some things to think about in terms of things you can measure and metrics that you can use. So some of them we've already spoken about, but you can put measures into logistics, managing expenses, market research, quality assurance, and so on and so on. So the thing is to think about your business, think about key focus areas and key result areas, and then what measures can you put in, making sure that you've got balance across those 4 different areas. Again, so that you're not doing really, really well in one area of the business, but at the detriment to some of the others. So I will open it up for questions or comments. So I've turned your microphones on now. So any comments on what I've said so far, or any thoughts about measures in your business?
Nothing springs to mind straight away, John. I have to just have a little think about how to put that in place.
Yeah, think of the key result areas that are important or critical in your business, so that you start to measure the most important things first. As I say, you can, and I've seen some people get bogged down in some very detailed measurement and analysis, but it's not really the things that are critical for the business. So
Okay.
yeah, so try and keep it focused on the key things, and it may change from quarter to quarter and things as you move forward as well.
Right.
Okay. So let's move on. So the point here is that it's difficult to progress if you can't measure things, because how do you know how things are going? How can you know what to improve? How can you make good business decisions? And what are some of the tools that you can use? So I'm going to show you some examples now of dashboards and how you can display some of those measures that you're getting. And these are okay, sorry, I'll just go back and bring up a spreadsheet. This is a spreadsheet dashboard. Sorry, I've just got to go out of a few things here. So bear with me a moment, please. So this is an example of a dashboard, and I often use the term instrument panel when talking about these things. And I've got a client who uses this one. In fact, he found it and showed it to me, and now I'm using it with a few other clients. So once you've decided what it is that you want to measure, then put it into a form that's visual for meetings. So in the case of this particular client, each of the managers sends their numbers that the general manager has basically tasked them with. At the end of the month, the numbers come to the general manager. The general manager puts them into this spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet produces this dashboard. And then that's printed off and put into a PowerPoint and used at the management meeting monthly to see how the different departments are going against their KPIs, against their measures. So this is just an example to show you the kind of things that you can do and how visual you can make it, because then you can display it. People and employees can see it, you can see it, and you can see how you're going. This is based on an Excel spreadsheet. It costs about $39 US once off. It's a one-off payment that unlocks the thing so that you can change it. And I'll show you the sort of things that come with it. So that's the example dashboard. Behind that, you don't have to create any of that yourself, because if I can get my computer to change it, this is what's behind it. It will come up in a moment. There you go. So all you do is simply go in here. You can change your titles here. So if we go into this middle one where it says daily coffee production, and we change it to widget production, like that, then when we go back here, we can now see that it's changed. The middle one there's changed to daily widget production. So you simply go in here, put in your numbers each month or day or week or quarter, whenever you're doing it, and it will automatically update the graphic on the front. So it's fairly straightforward to use. There are umpteen different, you can make this as big. That should move on your screen in a moment when the internet passes the information down. So you can see that there's different widgets. Something that comes with the spreadsheet as well. If I click on this other tab here, you can see you've got a library. They provide you with a library of all these different types of graphics called widgets, and you can simply choose the ones that you want for your particular business. There are trend ones and graphs and things, as well as these traffic light systems, pie charts. Here you can see when it comes up on your screen, so you can do a monthly sales or whatever, and you simply take the widgets that come in the showcase and you plug them into your dashboard. And again, there's a tab here with all the instructions on how to create your dashboard. And I'll just scroll up. That'll come up on your screen in a moment. You can see that they take you through and suggest that you create the whole thing on paper first, and then you just choose the widgets that you want, the layout that you want, and you can simply tailor the dashboard to your business. So it's pretty well done. It's cheap. You only pay a one-off fee, and it gives you a nice visual dashboard for your business. Now I'm just going to hold the screen for a moment and bring something else up on here. There are applications and software products around which will do all this for you, and I'll show you a couple of examples of that. This is, I would suggest, for the bigger businesses. So this one's called Fathom, fathomhq.com. And as you can see from this one will actually integrate with your accounting package, Xero, MyOb, QuickBooks, or you can download from any accounting package into Excel and then import it into Fathom. And then what Fathom will do is it will create charts, graphs. You can manually put in KPIs and custom KPIs. It comes with hundreds of suggested KPIs in different areas of the business. You can just choose the ones you want to display. If you go to fathomhq.com and have a look at some of the webinars and videos, it shows you how it all works. So it's pretty automated. But I would suggest, because of the pricing and things, you probably need to be a bit bigger business and have a greater need. But there are some useful things on there that you can learn just by looking at the videos. Another one is called Spotlight Reporting. Again, these are two that I know that accountants use with their clients very successfully. So there are quite a few around, but these two seem to be pretty well respected. And again, it integrates with your accounting package and automatically pulls the data in from your accounting package and puts it into charts and KPIs and reports and the whole kit and caboodle. So this is the way businesses are going now. Of course, in the corporate world, they go for ERP, enterprise resource planning systems and stuff. But all smart businesses look at their numbers, know their numbers, make decisions based on their numbers. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. So if anyone has any questions at this point while I'm switching over, just raise your hand and I'll turn your microphone on. So just getting back to the PowerPoint. Just means a little bit of juggling here. So let's talk about, when you know your numbers, what you can do. So it comes down to having a plan and making a plan. The first thing is to plan where you want to go. And we've talked about this in the group already. That should come up on your screen in a moment. Basically, if you're at A, It's the now, where, how principle. Know where you are now. That's knowing your numbers past and present. And B is where you want to get to. So how do I get to the next stage? Where is B and how do I get there? Now I'm seeing the images change on my screen here, but it tells me that they're not changing on your screen. Can you I'll just turn your microphones on. I think we may be having a technical issue here. Can you just raise your hands if you can still hear me? Okay, I'm not sure if you can still hear me or not. My screen is frozen up here. Sad how reliant we've become on technology. Okay, I can see raised hands, which suggests that you can still. Aha, I can hear you. All right, sorry about that. Now you're seeing all sorts of things going on the screen. All right, my apologies. Okay. Now we're back and working. So as I was saying, sorry about that. Don't know what happened. Everything froze up on me. What I was saying was, when you know your numbers, you can plan, you know which levers to pull, you know where to make changes in your business. So it's about now, where, how. Where am I now? What are my numbers telling me now? Where do I want to get to? So setting some numbers for where you want to be, and then working out how do I get there. So that's one thing, and we've talked about that already in the workshops. And then the other thing is scenario planning. What ifs, doing some what ifs. What if I sell more of this and less of that? What if I increase the price of this by 10% or decrease the price of that? Or, you know, looking at some of those levers and things to change in the business. If I can bring this spreadsheet up to show you a what if spreadsheet. Oh, it seems to be working. And it seems to be on your screen now. So this is an actual example of a what if spreadsheet or a scenario planning exercise for a cafe bakery. And I say it was taken from an actual example or an actual business in South Australia that I was working with, where they had a bakery and they had a cafe. And I didn't do this. I got an accountant to do this exercise with them. And that's one of the things that I recommend, even for a smallish business. If you've got a good bookkeeper or a good accountant who can do these sort of numbers for you, you can do some amazing things in terms of making decisions. So, for example, you can see here, this is now. So this is where we are now. This is what the numbers are now. Then you've got on the right-hand side the where. So where do we want to get the numbers to? And then down the middle, you can do the how. So if I change this in my business, how will that affect the numbers and the bottom line? And then over under the column over here, you can jot down some strategies and things like that, or put it into your one-page plan or whatever planning tools or documents you're using. So for example, with what's on your screen now, if we look at the bakery section and we say the number of transactions in the bakery is 7,176. I think that was per month. Well, it was. It's for June 04. All right. Now, if we go to the how column and we say, well, let's increase that by 1%, then over here in the where column, you can see that'll now, if we just make 1% increase in the number of transactions in the bakery, it will increase the transaction to 7,255. The average sale per customer stays the same at 8.6. Then the sales revenue now goes up to 72,324. If we go back to that how, and we change that to, let's say, 1.5, all right, so 2%, it now goes up to 7,284, 60%. So you can see by going through something like this, you can change the cost of sale. You can go through and change these numbers and do some scenario planning. As a result of this exercise, the owner of the business stopped buying in some products and started baking his own products and made some strategic decisions on the business. Because down here you can see he had some wholesale customers, he's got catering customers. So the whole business was modeled on this spreadsheet so that you could sit down with the accountant and do some scenarios. And the accountant would say, so where do you think you can make some increases? Where do you think you can make some changes? And let's have a look down here how that affects the bottom line. So in terms of profit and EBITDA, which is how we measure the success of the profitability of a business and so on, then just by changing those numbers up the spreadsheet, you can see how it affects the bottom line. Just a quick example, I may have already told you. If I have, I apologize, but in the training business that we had, we went through this very same exercise with the very same accountant, looking at all the different programs that we sold and what the profitability was on those programs. And we looked at the past over a period of time, and then we sat down and we did this exercise and said, well, if we sell more of this product, less of this one, we only run programs with 12 or more people in, etc., how will that affect the profitability? And as a result of that, my business partner and I were able to make some really, really good decisions, which turned out to be massive in terms of increasing the profitability and success of the business, and made it saleable. And we sold it 3 years later because we knew the numbers and we made some good decisions based on the numbers. So back to the PowerPoint. Know where you want to get to and do some scenario and what if planning. So what are the key points from today's session? What are the key messages that I've got from you? The first thing is we're coming up to the end of the financial year in Australia. It's now a good time to look at your financials and how you've structured your accounts, and if they're set up to give you the information that you need and the numbers that you need to drive your business. This is a good time to think about restructuring and put the restructure in with your bookkeeper or your accountant from the 1st of July. And set your accounts up and your numbers for how you want the information to come to you. It's up to the accountant then to turn that into something for the tax office. Keep your financials up to date and as clean as possible. So don't put a whole lot of personal stuff through your financials. Keep it really, really clean, because down the track, if you want to sell a business or get other people involved in the business or business partners or whatever, it's really, really important that your financials are as clean as possible and right up to date. With cloud computing systems now like Xero, QuickBooks is cloud-based, there's a cloud-based version of MyOb and all these things. It means that you can take in feeds from your bank and your credit card, so your transactions come in automatically. You don't have to key them in. You can reconcile them quickly, easily. You can set up rules. It's just an absolute breeze these days. Your bookkeeper can get access to it. Your accountant can get access to it. They can turn your financials around, your GST submissions, lodgements quickly and easily, and advise you on your business. These packages are now producing some of these numbers and some of this dashboard information for you as part of the package. So if you're not using those packages, I suggest you really look into it. And I don't get any commission for selling Xero or QuickBooks or any of those. Maybe I should. Have an instrument panel, know what your key result areas are in the business or key focus areas, and your KPIs. Have regular internal and external reviews. So if you've got other people involved in your business, review your financials regularly with those. My business partner and I in the training business used to do that on a Friday afternoon, every afternoon. Our admin person got all the accounts up to date on Friday by lunchtime, and then in the afternoon we'd spend half an hour, 45 minutes going through them and see what was happening in the business, and we could pick up trends or anything that was going wrong quickly and address it. Get an external accountant or bookkeeper to look at your figures like the examples that I gave you. And the other thing is, I just want to show you again, I think you already got this. I'll make sure that it's on Trello. This is the latest version of the Onepage plan. So again, I want everybody to be doing this by June in the mentoring group so that we can do reports and feedback updates quickly and easily. I've got a few businesses using this now and they absolutely love it. So do your 12-month big, hairy, audacious goals with your 12-month strategic plan or 3-year strategic plan, and then break it down into 90-day goals and do it on this Onepage plan. Work out what your three key focus areas are for the next 90 days and put them into these 3 boxes here. This is in Word, by the way, so I'll make sure the Word version is up on Trello. Set yourself a 90-day or a 2 to 3 month goal and put that date in there at the end of where this arrow is, and then put up to 4 smart, measurable, specific goals in where it says target 1, 2, 3, 4. You can simply type it in, and then relating to each of those targets or goals. So for target 1, put down some strategies or action steps for the first goal, for the second goal, for the third goal, for the fourth goal, and then set yourself a time when you're going to review these goals. Review it weekly, I suggest, and update it weekly. And if we can get everybody in the mentoring group using this, then each month now from June through to December, you can come back and report on what your key focus is, what your actions are, what you've done, what you're going to do over the next month. And then roll this forward every 2 or 3 months. And at the bottom, what are some of the key measures that you're measuring in the business to make sure that you're working towards these goals? For some of you that are not into the detail, this may sound and look a bit complicated. Trust me, it is very, very simple. I've got one client that's using this for each of their division managers, have their 90-day goals relating to the 3-year strategic plan, and they're reporting back on these each month along with the dashboard and where they're going with each of their key focus areas and target goals. So that's my recommendations for this month for knowing your numbers, keeping them clean, and just going back to the PowerPoint, setting up some sort of instrument panel, keep it as simple as you can, and then have regular reviews either with yourself or with a business partner or with an external person, a coach, bookkeeper, accountant, and stay on top of it. So any questions or comments, I'll only turn your microphone on if you raise your hand. So any feedback, any questions, any concerns? Think it looks easy, looks hard? You're doing it already? Okay, just trying to get the PowerPoint back up on your screens. There we go. Okay, so no comments, so as clear as mud, eh? All right, the next session we're going to be talking about systems, and I'm getting a systems expert to come in. He specializes in small and medium-sized businesses. He knows his stuff really, really well. He's got a fantastic process and an online system for working with small businesses. He's not coming to sell you, but he's coming to show you how it can be done, a good methodology for getting systems into your business. I will also be talking about Dave Lee Roth. You may or may not know who Dave Lee Roth is. And I shall be talking about Boeing, and I'll be looking at getting you to do updates and creating your one-page plans. So systems in a business are absolutely essential for making your life easier, ensuring you've got good quality, being able to bring other people into your business or get help or delegate stuff. In the business sales world that I'm involved in, one of the biggest impediments to a business selling is the lack of systems and processes in the business. So not only does it make life easier and better for the owner if you've got good systems, but it also makes the business more saleable, makes it easier to grow. So that's what we're going to be doing in June. In the meantime, you can check out my website and blog. Go and like my Facebook page if you haven't already. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can follow me on Twitter. So we're out of time. Sorry, we're a little bit over time. Any last questions or comments before I close the webinar? No hands go up, so thank you very much for attending. You can always email me or contact me through the mentoring group board on Trello as well, if you've got any questions or comments or want any follow-up once you've digested all of this. So thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you next month, and have a great and successful time between now and then.